Shalom and blessings to you all, saints. We continue to enjoy the day that Yahweh has made. And this is certainly an occasion for us to rejoice and to be glad in it. Today marks the end of Pesach, which is Passover. And we're certainly overjoyed to know that Yahweh has kept us yet again to see and to enjoy another moment of his prophetic utterance about his Son being fulfilled, and also us being in remembrance of the same. As you join the broadcast, please indicate to me whether you hear me clearly and you see me clearly, for Yahweh remains faithful. I bid you shalom, which speaks of that peace that Yahweh gives to us as saints, that assurance that it is always well. It does not matter what we face in this life. It is well. I bid you shalom. Be convinced and also be convicted by this fact that it is always well. Yahweh's faithfulness endures. His truth endures to all generations. His mercies are everlasting. Today, we've come through the week where there was unleavened bread according to the prophecy and the law, and then you had the Passover, and of course today marks the end of the same. We're in Exodus chapter 12, and those of you who do not receive notifications, please, or who did not, or who do, I should say, please help the others by sharing this with them or tagging them, or do the things that you do for them to know that we're here. Hallelujah and glory be to Yahweh. Exodus chapter 12. And whenever I read this text, there's usually something new that comes out and springs out to me, leaps out, in reference to Revelation. When we were having our feast, or our fellowship, I should say, we were eating together, saints, on Friday. It was not Good Friday. It just happened that in this year, that there's a synchronizing between Easter and Passover. They're two different, totally different events. Very, very different. And I do not wish for saints to be ignorant. You need to understand these things. Easter is not Passover, and Passover is not Easter. They're very different. Passover is a Hebrew feast that has been ordered by Yahweh. Easter is a Christian feast that came from a pagan celebration. And when people began to turn to the church, they realized that the people didn't want to let go of their pagan or ungodly behaviors. So what they did was they decided they're going to add some Christian salt to it. So Easter is a part of the Christian calendar. It is found nowhere in the Hebrew calendar in reference to feast and feast days. Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Trumpets, the Feast of Booths, the Feast of so many others. I think there were 7 or more of them. They are all Hebrew feasts. Atonement and all of them. The Feast of Tabernacles, I'm trying to remember all of them, but there are quite a few of the feasts. Easter is not one of them. Shalom El. Easter is not a Hebrew feast. Now there are those who say they worship Jesus, which is not a Hebrew name, who keep Easter, which is not a Hebrew feast. And yet the ignorant, well, they're not ignorant, they're just wicked. Their wicked preachers will tell them that Easter and Passover are the same thing. And Jesus and Yeshua happen to be the same person. You cannot be the same person if they're two different events that surround your whole life. Totally different. Easter is a pagan, Christianized celebration. That's why they call this Holy Week, which includes Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, Ishtar, and Easter Monday, Ishtar. There's no such feast found in Israel. But we in Exodus chapter 12, where Yahweh is going to give to us today, by His grace, revelation and insight. There's a prophetic, and we began to deal with this when we were eating on Friday. There is a prophetic understanding that you have to get from Exodus. So Yahweh told Abraham that his offspring will be in Egypt for 400 years, after which he will deliver them. Now nobody in Egypt, in Israel at that time lived for 400 years. But the promise was made by Yahweh to Abraham that his children shall be in bondage in Israel, in Egypt, for 400 years, after which he would deliver them. That's a promise. Abraham did not understand or wasn't told about the prophetic part of that promise, the prophetic part that pointed to Yeshua the Messiah. So Yahweh kept Israel in Egypt, which means bondage. He chose the nation that matched by name the natural experience of his people and the prophetic manifestation of Yeshua in the future. So he said they're going to be taken to this land called Egypt, or Mitzrah, and they're going to be there for 400 years. After which I will deliver them. Now you all need to please pay careful attention, because this is not about house and car and stuff. This here is about and about you're getting money, not getting money, and that kind of prophecy, and see God open the door for you. None of that. This is where you're going to receive the meat from Yahweh's word. Meat, not milk. So if you're a babe, He will reveal to you, hopefully, in due season. But obviously, you should be able to understand and receive in your spirit. Being a baby in Messiah doesn't mean you cannot understand spiritual things. It just means you're not at the level to receive it as a mature person would. But you can always understand it. So, Pastor Melly, back in typing mode yet, or you're still in observation mode? which one are you in now, dear heart? Let me see where you're at today. So, Yahweh promised Abraham that she's in typing mode then, that he shall deliver the people of Israel after 400 years. He did not tell Abraham that this experience ties to the Messiah. So Israel would have been in captivity, and as a part of the experience, the Pharaoh decided that he's going to kill all of these newborn babies. He said, I'm going to kill all these little boys. Pharaoh, y'all don't miss this, please. Pharaoh decided, actually, let me see if I can take you there. It's a good thing for you to read. Exodus chapter 2. I need to read something for you. I need to read this for you. Pharaoh saw that Israel began to multiply, and they began to grow an exceeding number. And he said, you know what? If you allow these people to continue like this, they're going to grow large, more populous than us, and then they're going to turn and rebel against us. So he said, what we have to do is we have to increase their burden, because it's a new king, a new Pharaoh, who did not know what Joseph did for the previous Pharaoh. And this new Pharaoh observed that Israel would have been multiplying. He said, we can't have them multiply like this. We have to oppress them. We have to do what it takes to oppress these people. I want you all to hear me. There was a plan to oppress the people who had a promise over their lives. And the plan to oppress them was a part of Yahweh's plan to deliver them. Oh my God. There was a Pharaoh who was favorable towards Israel. Let me say this to you again. And this Pharaoh who treated them well because of Joseph. He made Joseph the second in command. We may call the prime minister in the Westminster system. Or vice president in the U.S. system. So this Pharaoh who was nice to Joseph caused Joseph to bring his entire family. I want you all to follow this prophetically and with spiritual eyes here. Yahweh told Abraham that your children shall go into Egypt and they shall be in bondage. Now for them to get into Egypt, there was a trap set. The trap was, hey, make it welcoming. Bring them here. My Lord. The first Pharaoh said to Joseph, because of what you did for us, come. But before that, Yahweh orchestrated a famine across the world and ensured that Egypt had food. So the sons of Yaakov had to go to Egypt for food because the famine hit everywhere. And this famine that struck created a global crisis. And the only nation through Joseph who had, oh my goodness me, the only nation where there was food was Egypt. Egypt means bondage. Egypt means restrictions, constraint. And the nation, which the name means bondage, had provision for people. Bondage by name was attractive because it provided what others didn't have. I'm already talking to some of y'all right here. Bondage by name meant had provision. The word Egypt means bondage or restriction. And Egypt was the only nation in that area that had food to feed people. So they had to go to bondage in order to survive. But when they went there, Joseph, and when I studied I had to do chemistry course in university, a few of them, in the University of Guyana. We were taught by Mr. Bulai in a chemistry class in university that Joseph, he said, but recording chemistry books, the first man to preserve food was Joseph. The first person to preserve food was a Hebrew person. Wasn't a Caucasian. And this man, Joseph, was given wisdom by Yahweh to preserve corn in a manner that the temperature was right so that weevils wouldn't go into it. It would not rot, it wouldn't develop mold or anything. It was perfect. For 7 years the food could be kept. And Yahweh said that my people must go to that place to be sustained. So when Joseph solved the problem of the Pharaoh, he became the second in command of the entire nation. Very powerful man. So Pharaoh said to him, bring your family with us. Let your family come here. So here is where Yahweh created a famine. Put Joseph in place to preserve life. And then made that Pharaoh say to Joseph, bring your whole family. And they began to multiply. They began to increase in number. And then that Pharaoh died. Then Joseph died. And a new Pharaoh came on the scene. And that new Pharaoh did not remember what was done and he did not remember the works of Joseph. So he said, Israel is multiplying too much for us. We have to do something about them. So here's where he had the plan. He said, if you give birth to a little boy, kill the boy, because the girls aren't warriors. Let the girls live. But he told the midwives to kill the boys who were born to Hebrew people. Kill them. Exodus chapter 3. We go to chapter 12 in a while. A man from the family of Levi took a woman who descended from Levi as a wife. When she conceived and had a son, upon seeing that he was a fine child, handsome looking baby, she hid him for 3 months. 3 months. 3 months. When she could no longer hide him, she took a papyrus basket, coated it with clay and tar, and put the child in it, and placed it among the reeds on the riverbank. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him, because in the Nile River there were crocodiles. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river, while her maids and attendants walked along the riverside. Spotting the basket among the reeds, she sent her slave girl to get it, who was a slave girl, a Hebrew. She opened it and looked inside, and there in front of her was crying a baby boy. Moved by pity, she said, "This must be one of the Hebrew children." At this point, his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Would you like me to go and find you one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" Pharaoh's daughter answered, "Yes, go." So the girl went and called the baby's own mother. And Pharaoh's daughter told her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will pay you for doing it." So the woman took the child and nursed it. Then when the child had grown some, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and she began to raise him as her son. That's Moshe. Moshe is not a Hebrew word. She called him Moshe, which means to pull out, explaining, "Because I pulled him out of the water." Pharaoh's daughter saved Moshe, the man who Yahweh used to bring judgment to her father. I'll say it to you again. Pharaoh's daughter saved Moshe, the same man whom Yahweh used to bring judgment to her father. Yahweh caused Pharaoh, Pharaoh's not a name, it's a king, that king to make a decision that all boys who are born to Hebrew women must be killed. He made that decision, and Yahweh caused a boy to be born. This boy who was born, hallelujah, his mother managed to have him hidden because the midwives did not obey Pharaoh when it came to Moshe. For some reason, because of Yahweh's wisdom, the midwives did not kill the deliverer. When your assignment is from Yahweh, nothing and no one can stop it, even by presidents, prime ministers, senators, ministers in government, mayor, I don't care who you are. When your assignment is divine in nature, there is nobody who can stop that, even at birth. Yahweh said, "I will cause Moshe to be born in bondage." Watch this. But he lived as a free man, because the one who was going to deliver Israel never had an experience of a slave. Oh my Lord of mercy. The one whom Yahweh chose to free Israel, his name means to pull out. That person was never a slave. There's something about people who are born free. You see, some of you, let me talk to you all. You would not stand the saints here, because all kinds of people come on my broadcast. You could, some of y'all who watch me here, you would never be a free person because you are being led by slaves. Who am I talking to? You cannot be free if a slave comes to deliver you. Yahweh never made Moshe a slave. He didn't even give him a Hebrew name. He made Moshe understand the power of being free. So when Moshe went to speak to people who were bound, he never had a slave in mentality. He was never bearing the mentality, the paradigm of a slave. So you couldn't get Moshe to involve himself in a slavish mentality. And you in church today, I'll call it today, and you expect slaves who bound by money to lead you all to any way called freedom. You expect slaves to teach you the truth. Slaves who are bound to money can never tell you the truth. They would never tell you the truth, because whenever they think about losing money, they'll change the message. Whenever they think that they're going to lose money, they shall change the message. They'll adjust the sermon. They won't tell you the truth. In order for Yahweh to free you, you have to understand something here. He doesn't choose a slave. Yeshua the Messiah was never a slave to sin. That's why he could free you from sin. Yeshua or Messiah was never a slave to sin. Hence, he could talk to you about sin and not have a problem saying it. So Moshe never said, I was better off in Egypt, let me go back to being a slave. He never said that. Never. He never said, I yearn for garlics. Moshe ate like a king. Moshe lived like a king. That's why I share with people, and I share this not because I want to boast. I want you to understand something. I was never born into poverty. I was never born in a poor environment. I don't have a story of poverty to tell you all. I never used to have food to eat, and I was always I was fortunate enough. When I was born, my father drove me home in a Ford Cortina, not taxi. So I don't have the mentality of people who have to think that I have to survive the best way I can because I never had a good life. That is why you cannot bribe me. That's why you can't give me money for me to join some party or to be part of some movement or to take up on the hand. I cannot do it because I have never had an environment in my life in which it was created whereby I have to duck and hide and sneak and scheme and do all kinds of nefarious things to get by. When it is time for you to be free, he doesn't speak to you through a slave. Even before the disciples started to preach as apostles indeed, they had to go to the upper room and receive power. They had to be immersed in fire and Holy Spirit. Then they could begin to preach and perform great miracles. Y'all don't miss that. Kepha could not be bound by fear of men. Thomas could not be bound by doubting people. Always wanted to see for himself. They had to be free people who were empowered by the Most High. So when they decided to talk, no man before them had them scared. So Moshe was not born into slavery. Moshe was given to Pharaoh's daughter, and she raised him. And she raised him as our own son. Now let's go to Exodus chapter 12 then. Let's go to chapter 12 now. So Yahweh, in orchestrating their freedom, said, okay, I would not use someone who was born an Egyptian to free you. I'll use somebody who was in the environment of the Egyptian, but he was never born an Egyptian. Okay. So their deliverer in Moshe lived like an Egyptian, but he wasn't an Egyptian. He was never having Egyptian blood in his body. Oh my Lord, help us today, Father. Help us today, Lord. Help them. Yeshua the Messiah, who is our deliverer, was never born with Hebrew blood in his body. He lived among Hebrew people. He was a Hebrew by identity, but he was not a Hebrew by biology. He was the son of Yahweh in the flesh. He said in the book, it's written, a body you have prepared for me. He never said, I was born from a man and a woman. His DNA was 100% divinity. His appearance was 100% humanity. But don't miss this. He's called the seed of David, but he doesn't have David DNA. Moshe was called Pharaoh's grandson, but he didn't have Pharaoh's DNA. Moshe was called a prince in Egypt, but he never had Egyptian DNA. Because Moshe said, another prophet shall arise. And why did he say that? Because Moshe was delivering Israel from Egyptian bondage. Yeshua HaMashiach will deliver Israel from their sin. We'll talk about that today. Moshe was delivering Israel from Egyptian bondage. Yeshua will deliver his people from their sins. Oh, there's a difference. But in Egypt, in the natural arena, you had to have a deliverer who was not going to be born to an Egyptian male and female. But a mother nurtured him. Oh, glory. With Yeshua HaMashiach, a mother was told, you will become pregnant. You will have a son. You must, oh my God, you must call his name Yeshua. Pharaoh's mother said, I will call him, or Moshe's mother said, I'll call him Moshe. This is not just a Passover. This is not just let's eat something and get over it here. This is where you have to, as a saint, gain the understanding or what is called the revelation of why Yahweh did what he did. Everything about Yahweh is perfect, which includes the name of his son. So I don't know if you can up with Jesus. Everything about Yahweh is orchestrated to perfection. Nothing is left unturned. And she gave him the name Moshe. She said, because I pulled him out. He got the name because of purpose. I pulled him out. She didn't know he was going to pull his people out. So Yeshua has a name because of purpose. He will save his people from their sins. His name has a purpose. Jesus has absolutely no meaning. That's attached to Hebrew. Nothing. Yahweh did not begin the prophecy of Yeshua when he arrived on the earth. For the testimony of Yeshua is the spirit of prophecy. And the spirit of prophecy isn't time constrained. The spirit of prophecy did not begin with man. So we had to have freedom. Then you had to have bondage, or the trap was set to get them into Egypt. When they got into Egypt, Yahweh said, no, I'm going to make life hard for you. Watch this. Because in order for Israel to be delivered, they had to have become bound. In order for Israel to be delivered from Egypt, they had to become bound in Egypt. In order for Israel to become delivered from Egypt, they had to become bound in Egypt. So Yahweh caused them to go in there being welcomed. Come on board, come. And then they became bound. They became slaves. They began to be tortured. They were murdered. They were beaten. They were tortured to the point whereby they began to cry for deliverance. I want you all to hear me carefully. Israel had to be delivered. Watch this. Not by choice. They had a desire to be free from the burden they were under, but they couldn't walk out of Egypt of their own volition. So you could never tell me that you chose to change your life. You cannot choose to do anything. If you're a saint indeed, your deliverance comes from the timing and the desire of your God, Yahweh. He decided when they're going to be free. He decided that 400 years will pass before I free y'all. And then, shalom, Alicia, shalom, sis, good to see you. So Yahweh spoke, Exodus chapter 12, verse 1. Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt. He said, you are to begin your calendar year with this month. It will be the first month for you. Speak to all the assembly of Israel and say, on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb. We're speaking to the lamb and the blood. Each man is to take a lamb or a kid for his family, one per household, except if that household is too small for a whole lamb or kid. And then he and his next door neighbor should share one, dividing it in proportion to the number of people eating it. Oh, glory. Your animal must be without defect. If you're a saint, you should know that by now. The animal, the lamb or the kid, could not have a fault. Yeshua the Messiah could not have a flaw. Let me help you out with this. Yeshua couldn't have, like me, an eye problem, or he would have been disqualified from saving Israel from their sins. He couldn't have a short hand and a long hand, or one ear with a problem. He had to have absolutely no flaw, none whatsoever. Because in order for him to save Israel, the lamb had to be perfect. No blemish. None. Your animal must be without defect. Okay. Verse 6. You are to keep it until the 14th day of the month. Now, Everything about Yahweh it comes by perfection, timing, wisdom, and he doesn't make mistakes. Prophecy drives, or the engine that drives how heaven functions. So before anything, Yahweh told Israel, before Yeshua came, he said, listen, you must have a lamb. You must keep it until the 14th day of the month. On the 14th day of the month, something will happen to this lamb. Yeshua HaMashiach had to be arrested before he was executed. Oh, glory. Because the lamb had to be arrested before it was executed. The lamb had to be captured. Lambs don't run around and just say, oh, catch me, here I am. So the lamb had to be captured in Israel, in Egypt, before it was executed. Yeshua HaMashiach had to be captured and detained before he was executed. Perfection. But your pastor could tell you, your apostle could tell you, these liars could tell you all, that it doesn't matter which day he died, you just remember anyhow. But Yahweh has it written here, that on the 14th day of the first month in Passover, this is when the lamb is killed. So when was Yeshua HaMashiach killed? When was Yeshua HaMashiach crucified? When? I give you the exact date, and I'll do this until I die, as long as I could talk. We have the exact date of death for Messiah. The 14th day of the month of Nisan. Why? Because throughout Israel's history, in Egypt, Yahweh is orchestrating things prophetically. They're having natural experiences, but has a prophetic undertone. You will be bound. You begin to have pressure in this bondage, this area of bondage. You will feel as if you can't make it here. You will have a desire for freedom, but you can't free yourself. Ooh, what the next thing? There's a big one here. Moshe in Exodus 3, when Yahweh spoke to him and said, listen, you need to free my people. He said, when I go there, who would I tell them sent me? This for you all who watch me in hiding here and can't talk, I'm talking to you. And your wicked preachers who watch me as well. Israel could not be free until they knew the name of their God. You all don't miss this. Don't miss it at all. Israel's freedom was connected to knowledge. They had to know the name of the God who's going to free them. If they did not know the God who freed them, they'll praise an Egyptian God, which they did out of wickedness. That's why Yahweh said, I'm going to kill you all. Because before they made the calf and say, you freed us, they knew who freed them. When they sang by the bank of the river, they didn't sing unto the calf or unto Ra. Bless you, Sister Amanda. So Moshe said, Exodus 3, he said, listen, when I go to these people, they'll ask me, who sent you? The elders will ask me, who, which God are you talking about? Because they were surrounded by polytheism, they're surrounded by many gods. So Yahweh said, you tell them. You tell them that Yahweh has sent you. Watch this. And this is my name forever. You may ask of me, but Exodus 3:14 said, I am. He would tell Pharaoh, I am. Exactly. Because Pharaoh had gods that were built by men. They were concocted in the minds of men. They were human imaginations coming to fruition in reference to what they wanted to build and how they look. So he said, when you talk to Pharaoh, tell Pharaoh, I am Ahaya, which means the self-existing one. You couldn't make me, Pharaoh. So don't feel that one of your wise men could just go carve something out, or one of your priests could go carve an image and say, oh, this is a God, this is Yahweh. He said, when you talk to Pharaoh, Moshe, I want you all to know that I am, which is Ahaya, meaning I exist by myself, of myself. There's nobody who could make me. So don't tell me Yahweh's name is I am. His name is never I am. He described himself and said, Ahaya, which is, I am that self-existing God. Only one, because everyone else had to be made by y'all. That is why you could make an image of Ra. You could make an image of Molech. You could make an image of of Ishtar. You could make an image of all that, but you can never make an image of Yahweh, because he said, you cannot make me. I am. But he said, tell the elders, Yahweh has sent you. The God of your father Abraham, the God of your father Yitzhak, the God of your father Yaakov. You tell him I sent you. So Israel could not have deliverance without knowledge. Where are y'all people? You can never have deliverance without knowledge. If you are ignorant, you can never be delivered. You can never be saved in ignorance. When you are saved, it means that you are no longer ignorant of the name of your God or ignorant of the name of your Messiah. You can't be ignorant until you're saved. I praise Yahweh for truth. I praise him for his truth. I praise him for truth. So he said, on the 14th day of the month, you must kill this lamb. So on the 14th day of Nisan, Yeshua had to be executed. Not on the 15th, not on the 13th, not on the 10th. On the 14th day of the month is when Yeshua HaMashiach was executed. Not on the 15th, 16th, 20th, or any day you want to choose. It was one date. The 14th day of the first month. You must kill the lamb. Look at this. And the entire assembly, keep it until the 14th day, in Exodus chapter 12, verse 6. You are to keep it until the 14th day of the month. And then the entire assembly of the community of Israel was slaughtered at dusk. Oh, let's talk prophecy now. Let's talk prophecy, the lamb and the blood. Israel, when Yeshua was on trial, said, crucify him. Glory. All of them had to raise the same voice and say the same thing. Crucify the lamb. Because that was the prophecy in Exodus 12. When they all shouted to crucify Yeshua, that was this prophecy being fulfilled. All of Israel had to shout that the lamb must be crucified. Because that lamb was going to take away the sins of his people. But this is where we get into the depth of the message. The real meat comes here. Yahweh said in verse 7, they are to take some of the blood and smear it. Smear it on the doorpost. You have to take the leaves of the plant, of the tree, break the branch, and smear the blood on the doorposts and on the lintels which is over the door. They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the two sides of the post and top frame, the lintel, at the entrance of the house in which they eat the lamb. That night, they are to eat the meat, roasted in fire. They are to eat it with matzah and morar. Eat the meat. Eat it with matzah and what are called bitter herbs. Can we talk? Don't eat it raw or boiled, but roast it, burn it in fire. With its head, its lower part of its legs, and its inner organs. Roast it. Let nothing remain until morning. If anything remains, burn it completely. Do not waste anything. He said, roast the meat, but smear the blood on the doorpost. The lamb and the blood. Saints of the Most High Yahweh, Yahweh never told them to drink the blood. Sit tight. We about to go home now. Yahweh never told them to drink the blood. He said, you eat the meat. Roast the meat. Don't eat it raw. Roast it. Put the blood on the doorpost and over the top of the door. And don't. He never said drink the blood. The blood of the Lamb of Yahweh slain before the foundation of the world takes away the sins of the people. Yahweh told Israel in Egypt to take the blood from this lamb and put it on your doorpost and over the top of your door, but you're not going to drink it. Because Yahweh never intended to free Israel from sin in that situation. He intended to take them out of bondage, not sin. Are you still here? He said, you roast the meat, which means the blood is going to come out of it. Roast it. But you're not drinking the blood. Because the blood of the lamb takes away the sin of the people. So he took Israel out of bondage, but not out of sin. That's why they kept worshiping idols. That's why we kept misbehaving. That's why Yahweh said, I'm going to kill you all. Ooh. His covenant with Abraham was to free them from Egyptian bondage, not sin. If he freed them from sin, there'd be no reason for Yeshua to come. So he had to allow them to eat the meat without the blood. So when they smeared the blood on the doorpost, that kept death from coming into the house. But it did not keep death from coming to them in the context of the wages of sin. That blood protected the firstborn of Israel. But it did not change the nature of Israel. For if Israel were saved from sin on that night, there'll be no lamb of Yahweh which takes away the sin of the world. There'll be no conversation with Miriam to say that I am sending my son. You must call him Yeshua because he will save his people from their sin. That prophecy had to be fulfilled in the future. So Yahweh says you are coming out of Egyptian control, but sin will still control you. Hence, the law was instituted in the wilderness because Israel left free but bound to sin. How many of you don't celebrate it to stop drinking liquor? You stop smoking weed. You stop fornicating. You don't commit adultery, but you don't believe the Messiah's name is Yeshua. You are still bound in sin. You have been delivered from the restriction of a behavior, but you've not been delivered from the constraint of sin. You're still bound. That's why you cannot profess Yeshua to be the Messiah, because you're lost. Your pastors are lost. Your apostles are lost. Your preachers are lost. They're wicked and they're lost at the same time. So Yahweh said the lamb in Egypt, the flesh and the blood will be separated. The blood will be put on the doorposts and the lintels. So when I'm passing through to kill the Egyptians, you would live. Your firstborn would not die. Eat the lamb, but there's no blood for you. Eat the flesh, but you have no blood to get. Because the God we serve is so perfect and so meticulous in his planning that he knows that Israel was not going to be saved from that lamb, in reference to saved from sin, being saved from sin. But the prophetic connection was that a lamb had to be involved in Egypt. And this lamb had to point to a deliverer that was not like Moshe. So the people in Israel, they put the blood of the lamb on the doorpost and on the lintels of the door. And they sat in the house, waiting. Because the promise was that once, Yahweh said, once I pass through Egypt, I will kill every firstborn. Yahweh made a promise to Moshe. He said, when I pass through here, I will kill them. So you want to say Yahweh is bad? Who started the killing? You remember I read Exodus chapter 2 for y'all? The Pharaoh said, when the babies are born, you kill the boys. So Yahweh said, oh, so you believe that you could kill my people and just get away with it? Ooh, my Lord. So Yahweh ensured that the house of Pharaoh had a firstborn. Yahweh opened the womb of the Pharaoh's wife and gave her a firstborn. So that when judgment was going to hit, it was not going to miss Pharaoh's house. So she was celebrating, obviously, the birth of her son. She had a wonderful son, a prince, but she didn't know. She didn't have any clue that the actions of her husband years before would have had repercussions that affected her entire household. So Pharaoh started the killing. So Yahweh said, oh, you think you kill my people and get away with it? No. On this night, before Israel is free, I shall turn around and remember your wrongdoing. In the context that I will kill your children. I'll kill your animals. Everything that's born first, I'll kill them. Why? Because even in Egypt, the one born first inherited that kingdom. He was the chief prince. So Yahweh said, I'm going to wipe away the structure of your system. How your system functions, I'm going to destroy it. Even legacy will be destroyed on that night. I will kill everything born first. all of this is deeply connected to prophecy. This is deeply rooted in prophecy. How, Apostle? Well, thank you for asking. When Yeshua was born, there's a guy named Herod. And the Magi came, not 3 wise men. They weren't 3. They didn't mention a number. The Magi came. And they said, we are here to worship the one who's born King of the Jews. And Herod said, huh? He became troubled because now he said, no, hold on. If they came to worship King, then what happens to my rulership? To worship the king, this is what happened to me. Herod, like Pharaoh, the ungodly king said, kill all of the males born 2 years and younger. Moshe's life was threatened, and Moshe's life was preserved. Yeshua's life was threatened because he fell in the age range of those who were supposed to be killed. And Yahweh said, you are the deliverer of my people. And just like with Moshe's experience, even at Yeshua's birth, he had the same experience. He was preserved. Where? In Mitzrah. Yahweh sent Yeshua to Egypt. He was not a born Egyptian. Oh my God. He didn't have Egyptian parents. But just like Moshe, which was a symbolic deliverer, Yahweh sent his son to the same place where Moshe was. And in the same place where Moshe was protected from death, Yahweh sent his own son back right there to preserve him from a king who's going to kill all the firstborn. And you tell me that's an accident? You want to suggest that that's just by chance? And even the name of Yeshua is just by chance? So you call him what you want? And you could just choose to commemorate, as the church boys, there's only big word in these churches, to commemorate his death at any time. The exact experience of Moshe was Yeshua's. Because the deliverer from bondage had to be a free man who was never born a slave. Yeshua was never born any slave. And that free man had to be in Mitzrah, Egypt, bondage, but he was not a slave. That free man had to come out of Egypt, knowing that Egypt never controlled me. Everything about Passover, as we close this Passover in this year, everything about Pesach is about prophecy. Everything about Yahweh's Passover lamb is prophecy. Exodus 12, Exodus 3, all of that is symbolism. They're all symbols. But Yeshua the Messiah is not a symbol. Yeshua is the fulfillment of prophecy. He came here to fulfill what was spoken of him in the law and the prophets. So the law contained Yeshua's experience. The prophet spoke to Yeshua's experience. He came to fulfill both. And that he did. We praise Yahweh for the perfection with which he operates. That's why at my brother's funeral you heard me say it. Even when he passed and I began to speak before the funeral day, I kept telling you all, Yahweh works by perfection. Yahweh is flawless. So when Yahweh takes the saint to be with him, that's a perfect operation. You don't call and say, please send him back, because Yahweh's ways are perfect. Yahweh has never made a mistake. So when Yahweh decides to do something, it is well orchestrated. It is not time bound. Yahweh doesn't say, oh, I made a mistake, let me see if we can fix this later. His ways are perfect, and since he's not bound by time, what's this? He thinks eternally. Now, that right there is critical. Yahweh thinks eternally. He doesn't think by time. I want to get this. So Because his thoughts are eternal, there's no beginning or no end to his thought process. Everything about Yahweh is. My God. Everything about our God is. So when you're looking back somewhere, you crying about that, or you're looking ahead somewhere, he always is. Because time doesn't exist where he's concerned. It's even so crazy that time is a part of what's found within the whole of what Yahweh is. Meaning, he's not confined to it. It just exists within the realm of his existence. So before anything called time existed, Yahweh is. Because if you say Yahweh was, that's past. If you say Yahweh will be, that's future. But Yahweh always is. And if you want to go deeper than that, you just say Yahweh. Because you can't even put is to it, which is present. Every concept of time was introduced by the one who exists outside of it. So when you're going through something that Yahweh has put you in, always remember this, that time doesn't matter to him. Therefore, you're not suffering in anything for a long period of time. You're suffering in something in a period of purpose, not time. You are suffering in a situation for a period of purpose, not time. When our God puts us in something, do not look at the length of time you spend in it. There is always purpose in that time, because Yahweh doesn't put you in something for time to matter. Gina said, I attended Bible college and never heard truth like this. Bless you, Sister Gina. I praise Yahweh for his faithfulness. Everything about Passover, saints, should not be seen from the perspective of your thinking that, this is just a feast that we keep and it's just something to remember Yeshua. Don't do that. Do not do that. It's not that simple. Passover is not that simple. It's never been a simple situation. Because Yahweh had to make a decision to free people, from bondage, but keep those same people in sin so that they could call out for a Messiah. Help us, Lord. At Passover, he freed them from Egyptian bondage so that they can go into the wilderness. Where they continued to sin. Then they inherited cities and stuff like that, became a great nation, and they continued to sin. Because Israel had to always look for the Messiah, which is the anointed one, Mashiach. Yeshua HaMashiach is the anointed. Mashiach is anointed one. Yeshua is the anointed one. For us who are saved now, we did not begin in Egypt. Let me close with this, please. I don't know who taught you this. Israel did not begin in Egypt. Can we talk? Israel did not begin in Egypt. You did not begin in Egypt. Saints of Yahweh never begin in Egypt. Our beginning was never Egypt. Egypt is a part of our experience, it's not our beginning. I would that you receive it. You were hidden in Messiah, in Yahweh. Yahweh told Yirmiyahu, before the world was formed, I knew you. The book records that our name was written in the book of life before the foundation of the world. We did not begin in sin. We did not begin in sin. For the book records in Psalm 58 verse 3 that the wicked are unknown to Yahweh. They were estranged from the belly, from the mother's womb. He said when they come out, they speak lies. They are born wicked. Saints are not born wicked. Do not get confused with this. Because Yahweh said in Malachi, I'm giving you book, I'm giving you text. He said, for this cause I instituted marriage among my people, so that I may have godly seed in the earth. If Yahweh puts two saints together, how can you produce a devil? You did not begin in sin. And that's a problem saints have to have knowledge of. You think of yourself as a sinful being first. And that's why you end up in so much trouble. You did not begin on the earth. Glory, hallelujah. Your beginning was not sin. Your beginning was spiritual. I always tell you all that. Then you had a body. And this body came into a sinful environment. Why? Because this sinful environment had to make you desire a savior. But you couldn't save yourself though. So when it pleased Yahweh, like in Egypt, he chose to save you. You didn't choose to be saved. My beginning was never sinful. The wicked are born, Yahweh said. And from the womb, he said, I don't know them. I do not know you, if you're wicked, said Yahweh. From the belly, he said, they go forth, speaking lies. That's the wicked. Hence, he said, I will preserve. I'm giving you a book here. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 4. All things were made for him. Yes, even the wicked were made for the day of destruction. Pastor Mel got it. Pastor Mel, so apostle. So when we were told that we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity, that's a lie. Let me help you out with this. David, one man said it. When he was weeping for sin, he said, listen, Yahweh, Psalm 51, be merciful to me according to your loving kindness, according to the multitude of your tender mercies. Blot out my transgression, for my sin is ever before me. Then David said, in sin did my father and mother conceive me. Why? Because David's father wasn't a man. How could two saints say that you were born in sin? How can you say that your father produced in sin? If any man, oh my Lord, I feel like preaching. If any man is in Messiah, he is a new creature. All things have been passed away. And behold, all things become new. You are never born as a saint in sin. You were born in a sinful environment. You weren't born in sin. Sin is not my beginning. If your name was written in the Lamb's book of life before the world began, how could your beginning be sin? Can you help me, please? If your name and my name would have been written in the Lamb's book of life before the foundation of the world, how could my beginning be sin? So I began in a wicked environment. Saints, that is why I tell you all that I am not a human being. I'm a spirit being human. I'm not a human being. You are a spirit who's being human at this time. You are not a human being. You are a spirit. That's where you came from. Who is being human now. And then when you die, like Teacher Errol, like Apostle Stephen Branham, like Sister Diane Manwari, oh my Lord, I praise him for those saints. All the saints who've gone on before us, like Shaul and all of them. When you die or you go to sleep, you are a spirit again, who was once human. For Yeshua, spirit, became in the form of flesh, human. Then he went back, spirit. That's you. For as he is, so are we in this world. And you gone at the altar, oh my God, I was born in sin. And I was shaped in iniquity. So Yahweh shaped a holy child in iniquity. So if my grandbaby, if her father is a saint, and Gina is a saint, they produce a demon? That's what you want to tell me? So my grandchild, or my child of grand,
My baby was born in sin and was born out of two saints. How could my offspring say they were born in sin when the mother and father is supposed to be saints? If your child is a devil, then one of you are lying in the relationship. Don't make me preach now. Don't make me start preaching here now. If you are two saints that you claim yourself to be, and your children live like demons, to y'all, somebody was lying. You used to go to church, you're not any saint. You used to go to church, you're not a saint. Saints do not produce devils. For every tree and every animal must produce after its kind. What some of y'all produce here are hybrids. What you produce are people who are tared. They look like wheat, but they're not wheat. You all got some little grafties, but they're not true grafts. That's how they behave. They're devils and they're saints at the same time. Because one parent is a liar. So when the father, the mother is righteous, the other one is a little demon trying to be a saint. Trying to behave as if you're a saint, but you hate righteous instructions. You're not a saint. You despise everything that's righteous. Unless it suits you and you agree with it. Yeshua is that lamb. And that lamb that came, his blood, we drink. Glory. His flesh, we eat. They couldn't drink the blood of that lamb. Can I preach to y'all today? Yeshua's blood, we drank today. On Friday when we had a Passover meal, we drank and we ate. So unlike that Israel who came out of Egypt, we don't have the bondage of wickedness in us all the time because we drink the lamb's blood. And we eat the flesh of the lamb. And that blood takes away the sins of the world. So how you pastors tell you, oh, you're not supposed to take communion. I don't take communion. You need to stop that language. I do not take communion. We eat the flesh and drink the blood of our Messiah. Period. Somebody said, my God, that sounds terrible. Yes, let it sound that way to you. Because that's what Yeshua said. Unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you have no part of me. That's what he said. So don't tell me no communion. We don't take communion. I'm no Catholic, or Anglican, or Adventist, or Presbyterian, or one of y'all. We, the saints, do not take communion. We eat the flesh of our Messiah, and we drink the blood of our Messiah. He said, unless you eat of my flesh, and you drink of my blood, you have no part of me. You're lost. That's what we do. That's what we enjoy. And that's what you shall continue to enjoy. Saints, I bid you shalom. Oh my Lord, so much love bubbles in my heart, wells up in my soul when I think about the saints of Yahweh and how precious you are. Love one another. I always tell you, be zealously loving towards one another, for the goodness of Yahweh abounds to us. He has chosen us in Messiah, in himself, before the foundation of the world. Let's not forget that the 1st of August marks the beginning of our conference in Riverton. Oh, I can't wait. My father just died and it's gone. Okay, Daddy, I see. I love you so much. This course today was most encouraging, son. We as saints are born free from the influence of the material world. Hallelujah. Saints can therefore speak boldly to men, resist the material temptation of this world, and follow the truth unreservedly. We are not slaves. That's my father right there. Thank you, Daddy. We are not slaves. We're not bound to traditions. So you don't go behave as if everything that happens has to be traditional. We are not bound to anything traditional. We are not slaves to this world. We are free men. So on the 1st of August begins our Apostolic Reforming Conference. Oh my God, I can't wait. The ARM Conference. Apostolic Reforming Movement. August 1st in Riverton in Berbice. We're going to spend 3 days together. 3 whole days of fellowship. As saints of the Most High Yahweh. Saints from Linden, saints from the USA have already said they're booking their flights to come here. Saints from parts of the Caribbean would be here, I'm sure. Saints from Georgetown, saints from East Coast, Babis. We are going to gather in one location, hey baby, to praise the name of Yahweh Most High and to receive apostolic direction. This is going to be a moment that we are not going to forget. 3 days of intense apostolic teaching and whatever Yahweh chooses to do among us. This morning when I heard Regina, if you're on the broadcast at Pastor Thomas's, when I heard Regina and I saw her ministering to Yahweh, may he keep her until we meet. Oh my Lord. For she said something this morning and it had to be divine. I was weeding my yard yesterday and the thought came to me and I said I'm going to ask Regina this question. And today she spoke without me asking her the question. If Yahweh were to take my little baby, my darling, Eva, her daughter, would you still worship him? I would have asked her that question sometime today. Without my asking, she stood on the microphone and she said, even if the baby was not here, I would still. Now, what are the chances that I could have the thought to ask her and she stood this morning on the microphone and answered the question that I'm asking her? That utterance has positioned her in a place that is, you would be shocked at what worship produces, or what can be produced from one who has that posture. That it doesn't matter what you do, Yahweh, I will worship you nonetheless. That is what worship is about. It doesn't matter what happens. Worship will flow out of me because I know who you are. We wait for the 1st of August. We wait. And it can't come fast enough. The saints in Linden have already made provisions. They're making preparations. And I don't know the contingency size. But it's going to be something. And we'll be ready for whatever it is. May the blessings of Yahweh abound toward you and keep you. Strengthen you. May you be bold, fearless, never a coward when it comes to your faith. Much love, saints. Bye-bye.